Kia ora everyone, I'm going to make a start now. It's 6 o'clock and this is the start of our February webinar. And just like to invite folks that are watching live, you can enter questions into the chat box to the right hand side of the video, or you can also click on the link below the video and it will take you to a Google Sheet in which you can enter in your questions there. Look, I'm going to bowl in and start off with the first questions. Yeah, as I said before, my name is Rohan Wakefield. I'm one of the co-founders here at Enspiral Dev Academy. I am also the person that is focused on your success. So who's coming into the program, what's the experience they're having, and how they're going in their sort of employment sort of journey as well. So that's my main role. I've been here from day one of the co-founders here with Joshua Vile. Cool, so I'm going to bowl on into these questions. What is your all-time favorite story of a student from Dev Academy? My all-time favorite story of a student from Dev Academy. I wonder if that question was asked by a graduate. Look, there are too many good stories to sort of be able to single in on one. Some of the best stories I've got is I can remember interviews where people really doubted their ability. I can remember interviews in which people said, look, I'm here, I'm having an interview, but I don't think this is for me, and they're really looking for that support and validation to be able to be here. And I've seen some remarkable journeys from and some real flourishments here. So people that have just given it their best and have really had an amazing outcome. And I recently heard of a graduate who came into Dev Academy, and just such a heartwarming person, come from a field way outside of software development. In fact, they were a butcher, and came in, turned up and said, hey, look, I'm motivated, I'm ambitious, I'm a capable person, but am I just kidding myself? Is this too far of a leap? And they just put their heart and soul into this, and was such a warm and accomplished person, and did exceptionally well on the program. Not to say that it wasn't very hard. It's hard for everyone. And look, I heard through some feedback from a technical lead that they are just absolutely doing amazingly well at Flux Federation, and that they're an amazingly capable and exceptional person in the team there. So for me, that's a really great story to have, to see people flourishing in that regard. But we've had EDA grads start up companies. We've had EDA grads do amazing pieces of work, come back to us and just say that they're feeling so different now in this new career and this new job than they were. There's too many to mention, and that's one of the biggest rewards for me, to be in this role. Yeah. The next question is, how has EDA changed over the years? Well, EDA constantly changes. We started off in 2013, we had this idea, and in 2014 we started taking our first students. Since then, we've thrown out our curriculum twice, and we're constantly redoing things. We get feedback all the time from our students on how to do things better, and how to reinforce those things we're doing well. What that means is that our course is flexible. It's something that we hold dear to us. We're always going out to industry to say, what could we be learning? What should we be learning? That's one of the most important things to do in an industry that is constantly evolving and progressing. And I think it does it at a faster rate than any other industry. So we're changing all the time. I think one thing recently that we've looked at is that we've looked at the way in which students prepare. For example, students doing phase 0. So we have two parts to the program. One is was designed to be done remotely. You can do it on site as well, but it's preparation for bootcamp. And what we're doing is we're looking at that experience and seeing if that experience of preparation really does serve everyone. Because at the moment it's an amalgamation of third-party resources, our resources, challenges, exercises, tutorials, readings, to be able to build a foundation of knowledge so that you can come into boot camp. But we're asking ourselves, are we serving a certain type of person more than the other? Are we serving certain situations more than the other? And is it giving the best foundation of knowledge for someone coming into a boot camp? So because we're constantly looking at what we offer as never finished and as something that we can improve, we're always poking it to see if it can improve, and we can have a better offering. So I suppose that speaks to how EDA has changed over the years. How do you hope to change New Zealand? Wow, that's a big question. I think one of our pillars at EDA that we've had from day one is for tech to be the biggest exporter in New Zealand. We think it's an amazing field that Kiwis are very, very good at. Software development is a hugely creative field that needs a diverse group of people, and we're really behind changing that diversity as well, and seeing all of our Kiwis represented in software development as well. But if tech is to be that biggest exporter, then we really need to have some honest conversations about how we train and how we grow the sector, because it's actually incredibly important for our environment to be able to transition our GDP away from primary produce, which is hugely damaging, into more of a weightless export that's much more logical and better for us in considering what we are and who we are. But also, there is this aspect that we have to stay competitive. And to be honest, I think there are so many opportunities that have the potential to slip us by if we don't meet them and rise to those challenges. So I think one of our hopes in New Zealand is for us to be focused on being really tech savvy and having those modern tools and embracing this unknown, this automation, and this future of potential robotics and automation, because I think if we don't, someone else will. And I prefer for us to be the builders of that future rather than the consumers of that future. And I think we've got a danger of letting those opportunities slip by. And I'll tell you why in particular I don't think we should, is I think we're incredibly innovative here. And I think we've had a history of innovation here. And I also think we've had a danger of forgetting that recently. I think we've thought that we should be like the United States or the UK or Canada. We're not, and we never will be. I think we should work to our strengths, and that is the strength of a smaller communities on a smaller scale at the bottom of the earth, a long way away from everyone else, but for also striving to compete globally and beating and punching above our weight. And that means we have to be clever. And to be clever, I think we need to embrace these technologies. I also think we need to embrace collaboration. I think we need to embrace cohesion and teamwork and challenging ourselves, and to continue on with that creative aspect. And you can see I'm particularly passionate about education, harnessing and growing those skills and traits. And you'll notice the way in which Dev Academy talks. We don't want you to conform and become a vanilla product that gets to a grade and you're gone. We want you to hold your identity, your uniqueness, to have this experience here and to flourish and to go into that environment, into that world with your uniqueness and those skills to be able to really flourish. So that's how I hope New Zealand changes. That's how I hope we can influence that change. Yeah. How long has Dev Academy been around, and how many graduates have succeeded at Dev Academy? It's a good question. So Dev Academy's been around, as I said before, since 2013, and we've had students since 2014. We've had over 300 students graduate, and we still hold a pretty high percentage of employment. In fact, that's increasing over time. So folks are getting employment, they're getting hired, and right now, if you disregard the last 4 months of graduates, and it does take time to get work, but if you disregard the last 4 months of graduates, we've got over 86% employment. And we do measure employment in tech, so it's got to be in a technical role, in a software development role in which you're coding or on the periphery of that code. But if you're going back into being a barista or a lawyer or a secretary or something other than coding, then we don't regard that in our stats. It's very, very important. What is the experience like on bootcamp? So we have two stages to the course. There's phase 0 and there is bootcamp. And one thing to note is they're very, very different. So our bootcamp is the immersion style part of the program. That's where we are replicating a real life environment, and that's where the majority of the work sits, and that's a 9-week period. But before that, you have to do phase 0, and phase 0 is about preparation. It's about laying the building blocks of knowledge and information so that you can come into bootcamp and survive and be able to code and so on. So I'll talk about that phase 0 first. That's designed to be done remotely. You can do that from anywhere in the world as long as you have a web browser. The other aspect of phase 0 is you can take 6 weeks or 6 months, and that doesn't mean saying you're going to take 6 weeks and take 6 months. It means that we are flexible enough for you to choose your pace and take yourself through that. Now, we do support you on that journey, but we do ask you to commit to a time frame and take it at that pace. We want to be able to accommodate those with a lot of responsibility, like parents and full-time employment, but we also want to give those folks that do have the time to dedicate full-time to this the ability to do it quickly. So that's why we've got almost choose your own pace. That preparation is you submit code each module, you check in with your teachers, you have access to everyone else in the cohort, but you can also do that from a beach in Bali or another country away from New Zealand. We do have people with us this evening who are in preparation and they are on site, and that's fine too. And they're collaborating and working with each other to upskill in phase 0. Bootcamp is very different in its structure. It's very much an 8:30 till 5:30 sort of thing in which teachers are here. You are really immersed in a real life environment, and you're constantly pairing and doing projects, and there's lectures in the morning and in the afternoon, and you're taking these live coding sessions, these lectures, and you're then being handed the tools and the keyboard saying, right, we want you to embed this aspect of that you've just learned into that code that you did yesterday and put it into this environment and refactor this. So you're getting handed the tools a lot and you're building a lot. And the stuff that you're building is stuff that you'll build in your commercial environments. You're using the same tools. You're doing the same sorts of things that you're going to be building in a real life environment. There's lots of project work. We have projects at the end of each week, and you get together in teams and you build real software. So we want to replicate that real environment as much as possible. During bootcamp, you will be doing between 60 and 70 hours work a week. A lot of our students do that here. You don't have to. You can do it from home, particularly those that have kids. Have to go home to feed kids and so on. But if you looked out now, we've got about a dozen students here that are continuing on to work into the evening. And what they're doing is that they're not doing new material really. They're probably going back over today's material and really taking it a bit of a slower pace, reviewing, having another look, asking someone else, like, oh, hey, did you do that? How did you do that? And just seeing a different perspective, but making sure that when they're going home, maybe at 8 or 9, that they actually have understood things. They know where it fits. They're comfortable with the material, and they're comfortable going, yeah, I know, and I can orientate myself around that information, and tomorrow I could give it a good crack and build something with that. And it's important, or else, if you don't do that revision in the evenings, by the time you've graduated, although you've had all of that knowledge come into your head, it hasn't really stuck, and you need to do a lot of revision afterwards. So it's much, much easier to do it in the evenings, and we strongly encourage that. In the weekends, it's similar. There's a lot of revision that happens. So yeah, that's what preparation, that's what bootcamp looks like, really. At the end of bootcamp, there is a final project. It's a really big piece of work. Again, it's probably the first thing you would show to an employer. And it's a polished piece of software that you build from scratch. And you can. We also see graduates continue on with these projects post-graduation as well. What's another question here? What are some opportunities to experience Dev Academy before applying? Yeah, so we have lots of points of contact, so you can come in and have a chat to myself. I'm often in Wellington, I'm sometimes in Auckland. You can come into either Wellington or Auckland, have a chat with someone here. You could book in a time with me, and in fact on our website, you'll notice that you can book in a time with me and have a chat. You'll also notice on the bottom of the form where you can write questions. So if you look at the bottom of this video, you'll notice there's a link to a questions form. At the bottom of that form, there is a link to booking a time with Jack or myself, and we'll also put that link in the comments of this video as well. And yeah, we can have a chat to you about maybe your employment prospects, or maybe you've got a difficult situation that you need to work with at home to be able to study with us. Whatever it is, come and have a chat. We also have a day in the life, and that happens on Fridays, and we've got one coming up very soon. So at the end of next week in both Wellington and Auckland, we have a day in the life, and that gives you the opportunity, a bit of a taster of coming in and spending a day with us. We take you through what it's like to learn, hear some of the questions and sort of the experience aspect. But then we do take you through some of the exercises as well, so you can get to experience those. So there's a number of ways in which you can get to know us. I've already talked about phase 0. Someone's asked if they can do it in 4 weeks if you work really hard. The answer is maybe. I wouldn't recommend that for most, but if you've got some software development experience, you might be able to complete it in 4 weeks if you work really, really long hours. But it wouldn't be for everyone. 6 weeks, yep, more people could do it. 8 weeks, I think most people could full time. Yeah, that's really important. Come and talk to us if you've got questions about that, because we're really good at judging how fast people will take. There's another question here. Can I do it from on site? Yes, you definitely can. You can come in and do phase 0 here. What's job hunting like? Well, job hunting is tough. Finding a job is very emotional. The moment you have a yes, problem solved, and often it's it's quite harrowing until then, right? So it's very different to coding. Coding does as it's told. You can learn something. Once you've learned something, you're very much in control. Job hunting, you're in much less control, and you're at the whim of hiring managers and so on. It's also, I mean, they're judging you, right? So it's you're being evaluated, and that's pretty tough on your emotions. So job hunting in general, people find much more difficult than coding. But the good news is that folks that graduate from EDA have some good support. For a start, EDA is relatively well known as being a high practitioner. We are fairly transparent, and we do a good job. And I think that's widely known in the sector. We also we work with you on being able to find work. So we have a careers week at the end, and in which we work with you on a CV and a cover letter. We do a lot of interview practice. We talk to you a little bit about things like, where are jobs advertised and why aren't they advertised that much, and who's looking at the moment, and how should I approach this company, and what's a good way of approaching someone in a bad way, and how do I manage the expectations of an employer when I've got kids, and things like this. So we go through a lot of these sorts of questions that you'll have. Do bear in mind, our goal is not to get you to graduation. Our goal is to get you into work or into wherever you want to be. That might be starting your own business or whatever it may be. And I don't stop, and EDA doesn't stop until we get there. And I also say to graduates on graduation, use me as much as you can and want to, because I am here really to be able to support and get you to where you want to be going. And that's incredibly important, that we don't say goodbye on graduation. And I have students coming in often to meet with me to say, look, I'm struggling, I haven't found many opportunities, and we go forward and we write down a plan. And the moment we start planning and taking people through a contact list, and then an interview list, and then we're practicing for interviews, we start to see those results happen. So I'm with you until you found where you want to go. And sometimes, upon occasion, that takes a long time. And for some of our graduates, that's taken over a year. And I feel for those folks, that's incredibly tough. And but I am with you. I do support you through that journey. Do bear in mind that that after we measure our employment rate after 4 months of graduation, so we're always measuring, our employment rate after the 4 months of graduation, and we're seeing that 86% have employment. So people are getting work, and people are able to. I think they have a competitive advantage coming out of Dev Academy. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's always emotional, and there's a lot of work to be done in job hunting. So yeah, job hunting is tough, but you are supported well in doing so. Tell me a little bit about the content of programs and so on. So, look, we're now teaching a full stack JavaScript program. What that means is that we are teaching you technologies on the client side or the front end, and you'll see advertisement for front end developers, and they'll talk about HTML, CSS, maybe even UI UX, which is user experience and the user interface. And we do cover those aspects briefly. And then getting into JavaScript. And maybe they're mentioning framework like Angular, Ember, or React. Now, we've chosen React because it's a very good and powerful and versatile front-end framework, and we believe in that. We also do JavaScript on the back end, so on the server side. And we use Node and a number of other technologies, and we delve into databases using some other technologies and using Connects and so on. So we are teaching a broad spectrum of technologies. What I want to say at this point is we're not wedded to those technologies because they're the best necessarily for software development. They're the best for Dev Academy to teach you software development because JavaScript is widely used in 99% of your web organizations out there. It's a great way to learn software development because it gives you feedback immediately. It's a web-based language, and it's a great way to learn software development. But a lot of our graduates are going out into industry to learn other technologies, and that's incredibly important. We also teach you a lot about how to learn. We want to teach you resilience in this craft so that you are always able to be at the top of your game, to grow your expertise, and to make yourself competitively advantageous as you transcend through this craft. So that's a big part of what we do. Some of the technologies that we teach you might be a little bit unusual. Like Connects is not actually used a huge amount in industry. The reason we teach and use this technology is because it also exposes you to why we do things in software the way in which we do. Now, there is another tool that we could teach you that's probably more widely used, but it would also not give you the insight into why we do things in the way in which we do. So there are some unusual choices there, but we have taken these out into industry to say, hey, is our logic sound? Is our reasoning sound? And industry has come back with a resounding yes, and we've had some good, robust discussions around what we should be teaching and what not. But at the end of the day, we are not going to be able to teach you everything, and do believe me, in your lifetime, you will not be able to learn everything in software development. Some people have said, how can you teach software development in 9 weeks? Well, what does that even mean? How do you get to the end of teaching software development? There is no such thing. And so we do what we can in that 9 weeks, which is getting you work ready. And that work ready, that footstep into a commercial environment is incredibly important. At that point, someone ideally pays you to continue learning. And I meet with senior software developers all the time, and they say, hey, I don't even like to be called a senior software developer. I don't even know what that means. I'm constantly learning. There's always something new to learn. Sure, I've had some experiences and I know some stuff, but in this craft, calling yourself an expert, even calling yourself a senior is something that people are shying away from because it probably suggests that people are stopping learning and know enough. And that's never the case. So it's an industry and a craft in which you're always learning. What's pay or demand like in the tech industry? So pay's pretty good. I think that's fairly widely known. Our graduates on average are getting around 55K on graduation. Do bear in mind that our average age is about 25 for a graduate. So, our graduates aren't straight out of university type sort of folks. So you can expect that average salary to be around 55. So it's a good starting salary, 55. I think I'd be pretty comfortable with that going out into the industry. Demand is incredibly high for developers. There was some work done by the Digital Skills Forum on such a talent shortage at the end of last year. I contribute to that forum as well. Have a look at that, and just have a look at the Digital Skills Forum website, and you'll be able to see that there is a huge and growing demand for developers. It's very hard to put a figure on it, but I've heard figures of around sort of 10,000 vacancies, or shortage of 10,000 people, and as big as 30,000 people in New Zealand as well. So look, there's certainly a demand, but do bear in mind there's a demand for hireable developers. There's a lot of folks graduating from computer science that aren't finding work, and they may never find work because they haven't got the right skills. Often it's more of the human skills that they don't have, but they also don't have the skills to be able to hit the ground in a commercial environment, as far as being able to code and understanding these coding tools and so on. So do bear in mind there are people out there. It's a very lot of talent in the market, but not hireable necessarily. Do people at Dev Academy do personal projects? Yes, they do. We have two occasions in particular that you have a lot of freedom to do whatever you like. Two big projects. One of them is a personal project that you build whatever you like, and you've got around 3, sometimes up to 5 weeks to build that. It's not done in class time, it's done in your own time, and literally it's a playground. You do what you want. Some people choose to practice the tools we do here. Some people choose to do a pet project that they just wanted to build, that they've always wanted to build. Some people practice a technology that they've never touched before, and it's absolutely new, and our teachers support those students to do that. But there's a ton of freedom in that project. The other one is your final project, and these are group projects that are 8 days long, and you plan them, you polish them, and you dedicate a ton of time to them. It's by far the biggest project you do. And I mentioned this before, this is what you would show to an employer. Again, you have a huge amount of freedom to do whatever you like within that group. And you'll pitch at the end of the program, and people will put their hat in the ring on what projects they want to do. And if there's enough people wanting to do your project, you're then the product owner, and you go away and you build that. I have seen those final projects make money, become businesses, and even be sold. So yeah, they're pretty cool, pretty exciting, and a lot of fun. Yeah, how does one stay at the top of their game in this industry when everything is changing? Yeah, so the technology is one of those industries that evolves very quickly. We are now seeing something quite remarkable that we haven't seen before, in that an industry that is coming into contact with technology heavily, for example, like accounting, we are seeing that accounting industry also progressing and evolving very, very quickly. And that's something interesting. So it's not just tech, it's industries that are being taken over or strongly affected by tech are also progressing and evolving very, very quickly. I suspect, in fact, I'm pretty sure every industry is going to evolve in this way in time, because technology is taking over and influencing every sector out there. So how do you stay at the top of your game? And I think in the future, rather than just in technology and the technology sector, how do we stay at the top of our game? Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a question I'm actually talking about in a conference coming up, is around resilience. How do we grow resilient people, and how do you be resilient in your role, in your career, and in your sector? And I think it comes down to a lot of habits, actually. I think constantly learning and never calling yourself an expert or done is incredibly important. Understanding yourself is a huge part of that. And we do a lot of self-reflection and self-analysis here at EDA. We ask you to be very honest with yourself, to understand how you learn, how you work, what your vulnerabilities are, what your strengths are, looking at those things that are vulnerabilities and making them stronger, or just being honest and making people aware and making you understand what that means to be you, and then formulating, I suppose, your learning structure around that, and getting strong in yourself. And that's a very, very big part around being able to learn, because when you have that strength of identity and understanding who you are able to give and receive feedback freely, and you're able to constantly grow. You're also it gives you the ability to self-criticize without being damaging. It gives you the ability to analyze where you should be going and formulate a plan on how to grow. And that is a huge amount around being resilient and around how to stay at the top of your game. I myself am I walk this walk, so I'm looking for feedback constantly from staff at EDA. I'm always looking for feedback from students. I'll have a situation that was a little bit challenging for me, and at the end of it, if I can, I'll ask for some feedback saying, look, how could I have approached that better, or something like this. But I also have very close mentors who are staff, who are friends, who are even family, in which I can have conversations about how I can grow, or how they might approach this issue and problem. And the reason I can do this is because I have a self-awareness. I also have an element of being able to be vulnerable because of that strength of identity as well. And I think that's something that we hold here, and we try and instill in a number of in our students as well. And we try and walk that walk as a team too. So I think that's a big part of it. I also think we teach a lot about the diversity in everyone that's around us. It's all very well being strong in yourself, but it's a pretty wild and dangerous place out there to be vulnerable. We're all very, very different. And the tech industry I think it's a wonderful place to learn and to be collaborative and to be innovative, but also it's got some, like any place, it's diverse, and it's got some scary places that maybe you're working with someone that you just don't understand, or you're working in an environment that's really high pressure and you don't know what success looks like. So we also teach people about how to be resilient in those environments, how to have a high degree of empathy, how to be able to approach those difficult conversations, how to be able to manage the expectations of employers and managers and colleagues. And these are really, really important things to be able to stay at the top of your game, to be able to protect yourself, to be able to protect and help others. Industry and our students have often commented saying, that sounds like leadership skills, and I think it is, but we also believe that everyone should have leadership skills, not just our managers and our executive. Everyone in an organization should be able to lead themselves, lead their team in certain scenarios, and even lead those managers or executives if need be, and if the case may be. So we're a huge amount about empowering people with these skills and highlighting those values as well. The last question here is, what is the industry like for women? And I'll extend that to what's it like for maybe a minority, or maybe someone that's underrepresented in tech. And look, I think the great news is that I see a tech sector that is fully owning that they would love to see a better representation of the New Zealand demographic building the technology in New Zealand. And I can safely say I'm seeing such a wave of industry leaders, of these tech companies, really leading that by example. You've got great companies like TradeMe and Xero being very, very vocal about how they can push that. You've got Flux Federation, who I meet with all of these companies, and they're really advocating for how do we get exceptional at being welcoming environments and seeing anyone and everyone flourish in our environments, considering that they are coming from a place of poor diversity historically, and then really wanting to take that on and push that into a better future. So I think the industry's great for women, or for folks that are underrepresented. There's a long way to go. I don't think it's done, but I think there's an awareness and a desire to improve on that. And I think it's a great environment to be in. Of course, we would love to be in that optimal environment where it is diverse and there's great representation, but we have a pathway. But I think we're in the best scenario in that we're going along that pathway, taking that on, and we are walking that walk. Cool, I'm just going to check to see if there's any further questions coming through there. Nope, no further questions there. Okay, well look, that brings it to an end. It's been a great half hour. Just like to add, if anyone has got any further questions, get in touch with us. There's a link in the comments below this video that says that you can book a phone call with myself. Please do so if you've got questions, whether it's around employment, the experience, or even something that we've already covered today. Get in touch. We've also got days in the life. You can check those out on our website and just look up sort of, you'll find a day in the life there around experiences and so on. And look, if you're already ready and you just got a few things to, you've chosen us and you're really keen to study, but you've got a few niggles, apply and you'll be able to have a great opportunity to ask questions to myself or Jack or anyone here as you come through that application process. Cool. That brings it to an end. We'll sign off and hopefully see folks in the flesh next time.